This video is about eating. Not steak, fish, or pies, but a rather extravagant, controversial dish. Our special of the day appears to be in great demand. It's popping up again everywhere, on posters, t-shirts, in films, or as a hashtag on TikTok with millions of clicks. Eat the rich. But where did this slogan come from and how did it go mainstream? Could it change society, or is it just a buzzword? This is the story of Eat the Rich. Appetizer: the origins of Eat the Rich. France, 1793, the year that saw the execution of King Louis XVI and his entourage after the declaration of the First French Republic the year before. Robespierre and his Jacobins established a government now known as the Reign of Terror, and a certain Napoleon Bonaparte was busy forging a career in the French military. Already dead for 10 years, one man influenced these events with his radical ideas, the French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He envisioned a form of government where power emanates from the people rather than a single ruler. Many online sources attribute the following quote to Rousseau: "When the people shall have nothing more to eat, they will eat the rich." But there's little historical evidence that he ever uttered this sentence. It appears just once in Adolphe Thiers' 1823 work, History of the French Revolution, where he paraphrases a speech by Pierre Gaspard Chaumette that contains an anecdote about Rousseau.
I can't find any reference to eat the rich in the works of Rousseau. It could be a kind of extrapolation from Rousseau, but income inequality was not really his dominant interest. So I think this is a case in which nobody is directly quoting anybody else. I doubt that there's no evidence that Chaumette said exactly what Thiers said he said, and there's no evidence that Thiers had any influence on anybody later saying this something similar. I don't see a direct line of quotation.
So it's unlikely that Rousseau said eat the rich. But his work has had a huge impact on leftist concepts throughout history. It's not surprising he's so often associated with the slogan.
I will say this: the French revolutionaries used Rousseau, who is long dead, after the fact to justify and provide a context for many of their key ideas, from ideas about social contracts to ideas about civil religion. And then, after the French Revolution, subsequent kinds of revolutionaries and radicals have used the French Revolution as a justification for later political positions of different kinds.
The next significant reemergence of the motto was in the 1970s in American and British counterculture. The Detroit-based Eat the Rich gang published a satirical cookbook featuring millionaires as ingredients for gourmet dishes. From that moment on, Eat the Rich popped up in songs and movies, anchoring it in the public consciousness as a provocative punk slogan. First course: the growing societal rift. These days, the expression is once again part of the political landscape. But why? For one, public rage is being directed at the super rich. Elon Musk's net worth is now estimated at around $500 billion. The wealth of other tech titans continues to surge. So are the rich and poor drifting even further apart? Here are the facts. The World Inequality Database shows in the year 1820, the top 1% in the US earned around the same as the bottom 50%. After decades of fluctuation, inequality reached its lowest point in the 1970s, but it's been rising steadily since the 1980s. In 2023, top earners captured more than 20% of US income, leaving just 13% for the bottom 50%. If we look at the total wealth of the two groups between the 1960s and 2023, a similar picture emerges. While the wealth of the bottom 50% remains steady at around 1%, the wealth of the top 1% rose to 35%. The global situation is equally stark, with the world's richest 1% owning more than 20% of total wealth. The widely discussed gap between rich and poor is getting wider. The stark division means many people rate their future as precarious, and they're aiming their frustration at those whose wealth has exploded in recent years. Criticism of the super rich can often be heard at demonstrations in the US and other parts of the world. Some of the criticism comes from a business sector that makes a lot of money on the one hand, while taking aim at the status quo on the other: the movie industry. Second course: how the slogan made it to the movies. Films like Triangle of Sadness, Saltburn, The Menu, and Parasite address social inequality.
Eat the Rich films have become a kind of cinematic staple of recent years, in which supposedly subversive critiques of capitalism meets beautiful, quirky, lavish imagery. What people are looking for here is an answer to the question, what can we do about neoliberalism increasingly devouring our world, dividing us further from one another, creating more poverty and at the same time more wealth? These films don't take a particularly deep stance, but their visual power is fascinating.
In Triangle of Sadness, a young influencer couple is invited to join a group of ultra-rich on a luxury yacht. But a seafood dinner gone bad and a pirate attack turn the trip into a disaster.
You are great. You are not fired. I am the new owner of the ship. Yeah?
Survivors are stranded on a desert island where yacht cleaner Abigail suddenly takes control and turns the social hierarchy on its head.
It's a pleasing story, but it plays out only between the have and have-nots, the exploiters and the exploited. It always depicts just one side or the other, not offering any new perspectives. Triangle of Sadness is an incredibly beautiful film, visually opulent, with a charming story. But in the end, the message is, money literally makes you sick. When those who have no power finally do come to power, they want to stay in power, just like those who were in charge before. So there's very little truly subversive criticism of capitalism.
There are similar motifs in Saltburn and Parasite. Protagonists from disadvantaged backgrounds try to infiltrate wealthy families. Both films are stylistically decadent, but ultimately express the same pessimistic viewpoint as Triangle of Sadness, that we live in a system that rewards deceit, greed, and selfishness, where only the parasites survive.
당신 계획도 없지? 난 그냥 여기가 편해, 그냥. 아예 여기서 태어난 것 같기도 하고, 결혼식도 여기서 한 것 같고, 국민연금이야 뭐 나는 해당 없고, 노후는 정으로 다 사는 거지. 그래서 말인데, 나 여기 계속 좀 살게 해주셔.
If we took Eat the Rich literally, would we then simply take their place, like Oliver Quick in Saltburn? Would that solve all the problems? One film that doesn't succumb to this pessimism is The Menu. It's the story of a burned-out chef who takes revenge on his wealthy guests, killing most of them and himself. Only one person walks away unscathed.
Flame. It nourishes us, warms us, reinvents us, forges, and destroys us. We must embrace the flame.
Jesus fucking Christ, please.
Only one person finds a way out, and that person, Margot, stands for heart, for authenticity. She doesn't understand the entire performance. She doesn't want any part of it. She doesn't even like the food. She rejects the whole spectacle. She wants to go back to something real, something that has heart, soul, and passion. And she knows how to value that passion. That's something other films don't offer, and it's what makes The Menu a clear standout.
The Menu shows there's another way, a path out of the pessimism, a rejection of superficiality, alienation, and decadence. But how can we find that path? Especially in an era where much of our lives is played out in the digital arena. We can't just leave this society, this restaurant, and enjoy a simple meal. We're all part of its power structures. Third course, political protests in the digital age. What perhaps started during the Enlightenment, appeared in the punk scene, and inspired a slew of prize-winning films has also found its way onto social media networks. The hashtag #EatTheRich attracts millions of clicks. It's more than just a protest slogan, it's a badge of identification. But those whose t-shirts bear the slogan are often being devoured by the wealthy without even realizing it. British cultural critic Mark Fisher cited Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain as an example.
Cobain knew he was just another piece of spectacle, that nothing runs better on MTV than a protest against MTV. Knew that his every move was a cliché, scripted in advance. Knew that even realizing it is a cliché. Cobain found himself in a world in which stylistic innovation is no longer possible, where all that is left is to imitate dead styles in the imaginary museum.
Fisher says capitalism is very good at diffusing criticism of itself. Criticism becomes part of the range of goods on offer and is thus reintegrated into the system. Consider the anarchist symbol, intended to represent radical criticism of the system. These days, you can buy an anarchist symbol t-shirt for just a few euros on Amazon. So the symbol is now enriching a giant corporation that anarchists absolutely detest.
In his studies in hauntology, cultural philosopher Mark Fisher spoke of the ghosts of my own person. That's something people who grew up in the Western world, in capitalist systems, carry within them in various forms, the ghosts of capitalism. They keep searching for these lost fortunes, despite deeply despising them. And that's the great problem. That capitalism, or rather neoliberalism, has turned itself into a social system from which there no longer seems to be a way out.
There's a wealth of material online suggesting that human beings can't exist outside of the capitalist system. Maybe the reality goes even deeper now. Today, maybe nothing can exist outside of the internet. When something enters the collective consciousness, it becomes part of the social media world as small bites for immediate consumption. Is political discourse even possible in this context?
And I think it really depends whether you think social media is the sideshow to modern politics or it is modern politics. In the 90s, when a little bit before social media, but when the internet was sort of getting going, many people will remember a kind of moment of utopianism where people imagined, look, everybody's going to have good information at their fingertips. It's this incredible democratizing influence. But what wasn't so anticipated is that for every truth that got circulated, an untruth could be circulated just as well. And for every democratizing impulse, authoritarian governments would very quickly figure out how to harness this power.
The internet has huge potential for genuine exchange, but on social media platforms, a different kind of content dominates political discourse. X, Instagram, and TikTok simply don't benefit from objective, well-formulated dialogue because that generates fewer clicks and therefore less profit. Political extremism is booming because it triggers strong reactions and engagement. Visceral comments are immediately liked and shared, and Eat the Rich is a prime example. For dessert, why the rich aren't very tasty. Is Eat the Rich making the world a better place, or simply spoiling our appetite? In the end, it doesn't really matter. Our dish has come through thick and thin. It's found its place in society and here at the table, through social division, film, media, and millions of comments on the World Wide Web. Eat the Rich won't disappear anytime soon, but as a hashtag, it won't affect any real change. It'll remain a buzzword, a dish lacking in umami on an endless flight through the web, attracting likes from one side and disapproval from the other. The irony, by deepening the social divide, it enriches the tech corporations run by the very people the slogan seeks to criticize in the first place. The motto is everywhere and nowhere, with no substance, meaning, or potential for change.